Hey guys, it's Deneen, and I'm here today with a walkthrough of my Week in the Life 2025 album. My plan is to go through Monday and show you each spread while giving you a little bit more detail about how those spreads came together. Additionally, I took a few notes on some other topics as I was working on the album, as well as in retrospect. And I was thinking that I would share those thoughts with you as well. Some of the talking points are about things that I thought went really well, and then perhaps some things that maybe I could have done differently. Maybe after the fact, I thought of a better way. I'm not really sure. But all of these thoughts, I kind of have little notes on them just so that I can share them. Maybe you'll be able to benefit from my successes as well as some of my mistakes. So we're going to start with this super chunky album. I already have the spine labeled. This is a stamp set that Allie put out. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but it had all of the different things that you could put on the spine. And that also, there was June. And then the 25 is from this year. There was an alphabet stamp that you could purchase that had this type of number. You could see that she's chunky, and I just look at how neat. I mean, I'm sure you guys have all looked at your own, but I just get so excited when I look at all of the pages, like you can see the repetition in the way that the design on all of those pages together lies. All right, so let's get started. Let's see where we're going to start today. I'm going to try to make sure that I don't move around too much. I will probably end up moving the album a little bit. I'm trying to get the whole thing into the screen here for you. We are going to begin with the cover page. So I will move this over a little bit so you can see better. There is a blog post on the Allie Edwards blog that I went through my design setup. So what I mean by that, actually, let me sit down. I don't know why I'm still standing. Sometimes I stand. Sorry about this, guys. Sometimes I sit. Okay, I want to sit. All right, so sometimes I will do process videos for things. I did not do a process video for this, but on the Allie Edwards blog, there is a nice description of my setup, my original setup with the page protectors in place and all of the ways that I was thinking that it would come together. For this cover page, basically, it is hybrid. So if you are a hybrid person, this is right up your alley. This is the card that was 3x4 in the main kit, 1 week, 7 days. I stamped using, I think it was the 4x6 alpha stamps, those numbers there. I used them a lot throughout the album as well. I cut out this design physically, right? I just went around and cut it out. Let's see what else I did. On the back side, I have a reason why. So in Photoshop Elements, I removed this word art using, I think it was the spot healing tool. And then I typed my words in and I printed that out so that it could go back to back with this one. As for the background page, basically I took this shape, I enlarged it in Photoshop Elements. I pulled it into my Silhouette Cameo. I then cut it out on this block, this color block paper. I then went ahead and took this paper here, the red with the days of the week, and I put it onto my Silhouette cutting mat with it being face down, which would then make it so that these two papers could be back to back. You need to put one of them face down in order for them to match up back to back. So white, the white back to the white back. And fishing wire. I'm sure that many of you that have been around for a while have probably seen people do this for December Daily. It was just something I wanted to do just to be a little crafty ahead of time. Okay. Again, check out Allie's blog if you're interested in looking at my thought process before we even started documenting all together. Beginning each day with the divider. So let's get this here in the middle so that we can see. I'm going to move this a little bit this way, okay? Sorry, guys. I know I realized one of my last videos, the album was in a wonky place or something. So I'm trying to be a little bit more observant of how things are going. So here is the first transparency. Like Allie, I cut it down to fit into the 6x8 album. I did make it a wee bit larger than 7 inches wide. And I mean, when I say a wee bit, I mean like less than a quarter of an inch. And the reason why I did that was because I wanted the transparent pieces to stick out a little bit further on this side here. So that, for example, if I wanted to flip to a certain day, I could just stick my finger in and do that like this. And I am flipping to that certain day. So that was just a thought process, not a necessity, but something that just popped into my head. After this, when we turn the page, we start off with the scalloped 3x8 card. And I think everybody that I have talked to agrees we love the scallop, but it's not just about the scallop. It's because they're open, right? It's not just scallop like the die cut insert. The fact that these are open, I think that just put me over the edge. I knew this had to be the first thing that I see. Along with that, 1, 2, and 3, I thought this was kind of boring. The back of the page, the back of the divider was a little bit boring to me. And I thought, I could use space for a few more photos, and 2x2s are fun. And I'm not using a 2x2 page protector with like the 12 squares. So let me just go ahead and do 3 photos, maybe ones that I like. These were kind of chosen based upon the day. There wasn't any real rhyme or reason. I think it was mostly because I might have had a little bit more to say about that photo. And so I added the photos here and then the little bit more on the 1, 2, 3 scalloped card. And that was just for the beginning of every day. Now you'll see here, excuse me, that I ended up doing some stamping. And this says, happiness looks like this right now. That is from the Joy Story Kit. And that same stamp is used on every day of the week. I did not go looking through my stamps, looking to change things up. I was looking for some consistency. So I went ahead and I found that one. It fit in there very nicely. This is added in with a page protector. A page attacher, which I was thinking, should I punch the holes in here or not? I really was a little worried because you can see how close the words are. And of course, I could have moved them out away a little bit more, but I did have some things to say. And I didn't want the journaling to be too tiny of a font. The page attacher was the perfect plan for this. So that was really, really good. The accent color. Why did I choose pink? Well, I didn't want to use red because I thought that's too much red. And I turned my attention to this 4x4 card. And you see that the main color is the color of the day, which was red, and that's fantastic. But this accent color that's on the inside of those scallops was pink. So that inspired me to say, okay, we'll make red the main color and pink the accent color. And I did the same thing for most of the days of the week. And you'll see as I go through that, it was really hard for some of them, but that was the general idea behind using that pink. So I was bringing a little bit more pink into this particular spread so that we could have those two colors together. Okay. Turning that over, we have a photo, a full photo on the back side. I did that by choice. Originally, I had thought some journaling, like running in this direction. No, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do journaling this way because it was journaling on this side. Went back and forth a little bit. Full page photo. I went ahead and just kind of looked at the photos that would be good in this super thin and long format. And I just chose that particular photo from each day. On there, we have the Monday half circle plastic stapled on. And then at the top, this is one of the square die cut pieces. And all I did was stamp the date on it, trim it down to that small size, and staple it on the top. And for some of these photos, it needed that because without that, it just seemed kind of empty. Not all of them, but some of them. This one is a good example of how it kind of felt a little bit empty. Next up, we have a citrus twist page protector, and that is with the two 4x4 pockets. You'll notice also that most of my photos, if they are in a pocket, they are not embellished. I did embellish full page photos. I did not embellish the pocket photos. That was a choice that I had made to make my process easier, and also to kind of, I don't know, let the photos shine, right? Let the photos just be the star of the show. For this, we have this chapter here. Okay, so what I did was I said to myself in the beginning of the process, when I first started all the way at the beginning, I knew I wanted all of the journal cards to have deeper stories. And when I say deeper stories, I don't mean big, heavy stories that are like heart-wrenching or anything. I mean more details. I mean just more story, not just, hey, I woke up, I fed the cats, I sat at the computer. I wanted a little more than that. So as I was choosing the 4x4 photos for each day of the week, I was also thinking about what I had written down about the deeper, longer stories that I wanted to tell. And I chose photos based upon that. So in a pocket, journal cards, a little bit of a longer story. So here, let me read to you the journaling on this particular card. All right. So this is basically just a photo of me sitting at my computer in the morning. I have my coffee, the cats are fed, and this is what I do every single morning. Here's my journaling. I still enjoy waking up earlier than I need to in the mornings. I thrive better when I begin the day slowly. The house is still and quiet. I feed the cats while the coffee brews, Lola meowing impatiently, the others pacing back and forth by their food bowls. I check my email, scroll Instagram half awake, and let my mind ease into the day. No rush, no noise, just a quiet pocket of time that feels like it belongs only to me. So that's what I mean by longer journaling. The story has a little bit more embellishing in it, as opposed to woke up, fed cats, sat at the computer, Instagram, email, right? It's fancier, okay? So that is my explanation for that, just so that you have a good idea. On the side of that is a tab, and normally from Allie Edwards, these are sticker tabs. I made these on my own. You can see a YouTube video for me making these tabs with Photoshop elements and then cutting them out on the silhouette, or you could also cut them out by hand. So if you're interested in those tabs, if you know me, you know I am a tab person. I love this. Do you see how this is? These 2 pages, different sizes. You can see the tab sticking out. I just go for that. If you've seen my project life, I have a lot of that in my project life. So I wanted to add that in here because this is my style. This is how I like there to be a lot of diversity within my albums. I think it's just fun. I just like to have that differences in size and then the different tabs. Okay, so let's turn that over. On the back side, all we have are just 2 simple photos. No embellishing, nothing fancy. It's just basic photos. Monday is also on the back there. I don't know if I said it was Monday or not, but I made these. So all of these are colorful based upon the day of the week, and Monday matches with the color for Monday. And this color here, I forgot to mention this chapter. I chose this chapter because I wanted to do some stamping. I wanted to make sure that I was using my stamps. And I think this was from the One Little Word Phrases. One Little Word, Allie's Phrases 2023. So this chapter is stamped on every one of these square cards. And then underneath we have Monday, which I believe is from this year's release. Let's see, this year's release, I'm not really sure which one it was. The Day of the Week stamps. I think it was the Day of the Week stamps, if you're interested in that as well. Okay, sorry about that. My brain, I have to tell you, I'm so excited about this album that I think my brain is moving way faster than my mouth. So, although my mouth is moving pretty fast too. Anyway, next up is a Citrus Twist Instax sized page protectors. Again, another one of my favorite things to use. I love them. I love the tiny size of the photos. Inside the first pocket on the upper left is one of the plastic numbers from the mini kit, and those are stapled in there because I didn't want them to move. On them, before I stapled them in there, I put "Today looked like this," and I think that was from one of the stamp sets this year. I think it was the Weekly Moments stamp set, and I did that with StazOn ink. So one of the few things that I did decide ahead of time, because I really did not do any planning on what I wanted to document, but last year I did these 3 things and I wanted to do it again. We have a song, the weather, and a quote. So basically it's whatever song I hear first, whether it's in my earbuds or in the car or from Alexa or wherever, that is going to get a screenshot. The weather, I screenshot from my phone. And then when I say quote, it could be a quote, it could be a meme, it could be a little character, cartoony, whatever. Something that struck my fancy on either Instagram or Facebook or any kind of social media that I'm on. I will take a screenshot of that. So that is what goes into these 3 pockets for every single day. For this tab, I decided to go with the Avery index tabs. By the way, if I didn't mention it, because I don't think I didn't hit any Avery index tabs yet, you can get the template for these 2-inch Avery tabs on their website. And that's exactly what I did. I went to their website and I downloaded the template, which just is a bunch of, it's like a, what do we call it? It's like a grid, right? It's just like a grid of all these 2-inch skinny boxes. You could just go ahead and type your stuff in there and then print them out. So that's what I did, and that sized it perfectly. I cut them out with scissors and I just slid them into the index tab. That says song, weather, quote. And that's why I chose to use the Avery index tabs, because I wanted to put those long words in there. Flipping that over to the back side, you'll see the back of the number. I just put a little chipboard heart on there. And then these are just random photos, right? I just went through my photos for the day and I said, okay, what photos are left and which ones would look good in this small size? Because these are little. I mean, they're probably less than 2 inches by maybe less than 3 inches. So they're not that big. And you can't really fit like group photos in there unless everybody's super tiny, but you just have to be careful with the photos that you choose. I think I did a pretty good job of that. Okay. Yeah, let's move on to this next one. This is a 6x8 page protector. We have the 2 3x4s and we have the 4x6. This card is from the journal card variety pack. And I also knew, like I said earlier, that every journal card in every pocket was going to tell a deeper story. So I picked out the stamp that says the heart of the story. That is also one little word stamp. And I'm not sure, but I think it's from a mini kit. And I think that was from 2023. So if you have to look through your stamps for something like that, it would be in the one little word stuff if that's how you organize things. So this is basically just me running this through my printer. I did print directly onto this. I think I did that for everything in this album. I did not use any sticker paper at all. And then I stamped heart of the story. I was thinking about why I used certain colors, and I'm not really sure. I think there's a story behind that. I have to look at my notes, but I did stamp in a color that would kind of be offset from, whatever this background color is. So the 3x4 photo that I chose here was chosen ahead of time. So recapping, I chose a 4x4 photo ahead of time because I had a deeper story to tell. I chose a 3x4 photo ahead of time to go with this deeper story. And then when you turn over, I chose a 4x6 photo to go with this deeper story. So once again, I have long journaling that you'll see in just a bit that is very factual and that has a lot of the details of my day. But then, like I said, there were some things that just, they needed a little bit more information. And maybe they were things that I really, really wanted to remember. So those photos were chosen first. That was the beginning of my whole process, right? Pick those 3 photos out. Then this is the oval. This is the oval 3x4 journaling card, and I think that was from the mini kit, but this is not the original one. This is, let's pull that out here. This is, not going in the right way. Here we go. This is a hybrid version here, and let me just show you a little bit closer here. Can you see where it says, let's see, let's put it that way. It says, on a scale of 1 to 10, today was A. So here's the original on the back side. It said life in numbers. And this is the original. I ran this original through my printer where I typed cups of coffee, steps, photos taken, and high temp. So I did that on the original, but I also created a whole different one that had the same border on it, but I changed the title. And then I took one of the paper die cut numbers because I was rating each day as to whether or not it was a 1, or it could have been a great day and it could have been a 10. In this case, this day was a 7. And then for interest, I just did a little bit of machine sewing across the number. Those are kind of just floating in the pockets for now. I haven't made up my mind as to whether I'm going to staple them in or not. But I really love the fact that you could see through this, and that's why I wanted it to be in a pocket. All right, let's flip over, and we are back again. Like I said, here we go with some stamping. Those were the numbers from the alphabet stamp this year. So the alphabet stamp had those numbers at the end, and they ended up being a really great size that fit right between all of the things that I had typed on there. 2.5 cups of coffee, 7,153 steps, 185 photos taken, and then the high temperature was 68 degrees. And there were so many things I could have chosen. There were so many things that I could have chosen for counting, but to be honest, that was the easiest for me. It was the easiest for me because my steps are counted by my iWatch. Photos taken is counted by my phone. High temperature is just the high temperature. And then I know how much coffee I drink. And so you can document anything. I know a lot of people had mentioned things when you're a mom, like diaper changes or how many bottles you filled up or, different. Your life is going to dictate what you count. That's basically what it is. And you are going to be the only one who needs to be happy with what you are counting. So do not worry about whether other people approve of what you've been counting. You can count whatever you want. Not every day has this additional page protector. This is a 6x8 with the 4 3x4s. And I did this on days where I had more photos than space. Because I had a pre-designed idea for my album, I knew that some days I might have to add some additional page protectors, and this was one of those days. The good thing about that was it allowed me to go into my stash, and I was super excited because I pulled out some 3x4 cards that had some sayings on them. I am always on a mission to use up my 3x4 cards, so that gave me the opportunity to do that. And then these things in the middle, which make me really happy, I believe are from the it was the quarterly scrapbook kit. I'm pretty sure it was called Daily, and it had a 12x12 piece of paper in there, all filled with circles like this that talked about stories of particular days of the week with different fonts and different designs and different colors, and they were all so wonderful. I used many of them because the kit was from probably 2024, and I punched out most of those circles for my project life, but I did find this one design where I had the days of the week to use. So again, not embellishing the photos, but just putting that right in the middle to make it have a little bit more interest. I did the same thing on the back side, but this time with a piece of chipboard. So once again, there aren't any embellishments on my photos. This right here makes me super happy. So let me explain to you what this is and then show you how it turned out. I'll flip this over first. Here is the physical version of the 10x8 journal card from the Journal Card Variety Pack. So originally, and I'll open this up, Originally, this was 10 inches long, and it was designed to go into those page protectors with the long pocket, right, for the 10 by 8 albums. Of course, my album is 6 by 8, so all I did was, trim enough off so that this would be 8¼ inches tall. And that was perfect. So my goal was to type all of my daily details on there. Explaining that to you at the end of each day, I would have my iPhone and I would just dictate into my iPhone the different things that happened during the course of the day. Kind of like, just documenting the details of the day. Sometimes I would do it at the end of the day. Sometimes I would do it as the day would go on, if something popped in my head, if I had some spare time. But at the end of every day, I ended up with, in my journal on my phone, just words. It was just random, what do they call that? Stream of consciousness. I would say, I woke up in the morning at this time, the morning was quiet, the cats did this, I got to work by this time, the factual details. Okay, so I call that my daily details. And you can see here, I made another Avery tab that says that for each of the days of the week. The problem was, I had too much journaling and it did not fit here. And I very well could have turned this over and just continued all of my journaling down the back side of this, which I originally did think I was going to do, but I really wanted a place for a little bit more full page photos. I really didn't have a lot of those, and I wanted another place for that. So my original intent was photo. And I didn't want to go back and change my mind. I didn't want to just add the journaling here. So I turned to hybrid scrapbooking. And what I did was I went into Photoshop Elements with the digital version of one of these cards. And when you pull it in, it will be long. So it will be in, what do we call that? The landscape orientation. So I chopped it down with my crop tool to 8¼ and then I just turned it so that it was standing straight up. And then I said, okay, I am going to isolate with my rectangular marquee. I'm just going to isolate this tan part. So I just took the rectangular marquee and I just selected only the tan, leaving out this half circle here, leaving out that. But after I did that, I did a new layer and I made 2 of those layers onto a regular piece of paper canvas, and I was able to do these. So here we go. Do you see how this is so little here? This is probably, oh gosh, I think I wrote it down here somewhere. Let me see if I wrote it down. Did I write it down? I wrote a lot of stuff down. I was just writing and writing and writing. I don't know if I did or not. Let's take a look. It has to be here somewhere. Oh yes. Okay. So it's about, I know I wrote this down somewhere. I think it's 2 5/8. I'm pretty sure this is 2 5/8, which is like 2.625 maybe, and then by 8¼ So 2 of these, okay, and then adhere them back to back. And when I did it, I made sure that there was about a 1/2 inch on the left for this one and a 1/2 inch on the right for that one. And that would leave room for those holes to go in the rings. As I was typing my journaling, I did this manually, so there was no fancy Photoshop magic here. I typed, and then when I got down here, I knew I wanted to add this circle as like a tab to open it. So I just kind of formatted my journaling so that there was space for the circle. Pretty easy. I know that some of my YouTube videos do show me working on this kind of process. If you're someone who watches my videos, you've probably or most definitely have seen that before. Pointing out this little circle here, again, if you look, this little circle stuck out. Okay, so without this circle here, you would see this. So I said, let's put the circle, the 2-inch circle die cut here. I stamped the date. I put a little piece chipboard star. And then what I thought was super fun was I stamped open me. Let's pull that out and show you that closer. If you saw me on Instagram, you saw that I pointed that out too. But can you see? If I could point it that way. It says open me. And that alerts the reader that, you know what? Don't just grab this tab right here and flip over, because you're missing the whole story, right? We don't want you to miss the story. There's a story in there. So the reader goes, oh, look, it says open me. I think I will do that. And then they will flip that over and they'll go, oh my goodness, look at this. There's so much more. It starts here. It goes to here, and then it's all the way to here. So boy, did she have a lot of fun things to say that day. Or maybe they'll go, oh my gosh, her life is so boring. I don't know. I guess it depends on who's reading it. But in any event, it is my life. So, and then over here on this little cutout here where they have, they put a little half circle, I put the chipboard pieces that had the letters for the days of the week. So in this case, it is M, excuse me, it is M for Monday. And again, I colored these with the pink to go along with the accent color of pink that I chose for Monday. And then we flip that over and we have my full page photo, which again, like I said, I had my heart set on it and I just wanted it there. I wanted it there and I wanted it to be simple. I did embellish with a half circle plastic piece and another chipboard star. Next to last is the page I created for the Allie Edwards blog, Little Bits of Monday. I created this because it was something that I had in my head and I was super excited that I could share it with you guys on the blog. It is basically just the color blocked paper with boxes and prompts. That's pretty much it. Every day I have these prompts to work with. Mood check, little wins, yes to this, note to self, grateful for, no to this, noticed this, and best moment. And then every day it says little bits of with that day of the week. So this is hybrid. Again, this file is on the blog. All I did was open the file. I think it's a PNG. And then I added text boxes and put my information in. And I do want to say that using the notebook this year during the documenting week was amazing for me. It really helped me to pull everything together. I knew the things I wanted to say. I was able to find things that I had jotted down that went into each of these boxes. So I absolutely recommend that if you are someone who is waiting to do Week in the Life this year or even for next year. Definitely a game changer for me. The last thing about this page is the fact that this is the January 2025 Scrapbook by the Month stamp set. It is just a set of 4 smiley faces. I think I only used 2 of them. It was this one, and then there was one with just a straight line, you'll see as I flip through. And I thought, okay, either you had a good day or maybe you were indifferent, right? Indifferent because there was some good and there was some bad. But you could always, because again, this is hybrid, you could always go on the internet and find smiley faces that you can just drag and drop in there and then print them out as well. So that page is available on Allie's blog if you are interested. And then last but not least, and oops, it fell out, we have the die cut insert page. And let me just pull this out and show you. In real life, this is designed to go like this. But I wanted it to be the last page and I wanted this to go back to back. So I had to flip it over. Okay, so if you are using this, you'll see there are ones with the scallops on the right and then the scallops on the left, if you're interested in putting those 2 back to back. This piece right here, other than the scallop 3x8 card, that and this were like competing with each other for, I'm her favorite. No, I'm her favorite. No, she loves me more. I couldn't decide. And I wanted this to be a star. I wanted it to be standalone. I didn't want it to be with anything else. So I did decide that this was going to go at the end of the album on the last page. And that was the only decision that I made. I did not make any other decisions. That was it. And so after I was putting my album together, I put the pocket on the die cut insert and I went, and now what am I going to document? because I was at the end and I had already documented so much. And I just was like, I don't know. I wanted to use these pockets so much and I saved them for last. And now what did I do? Now I have nothing to say. So I let them go without anything on them at all. And I just began, you know how you kind of walk away from things and you say to yourself, you know what, change your environment, right? Walk away from the project and your brain will kind of start to refresh itself. And so the mindless thing I started doing was putting my week in the life stuff away. I thought, well, I'm done. Let's get this stuff into my stash. Let's pick through what's left and let's mix it in with the stash. And that's what I started to do. And as I was doing that, I stumbled upon the 6x8 sticker sheet, which I believe was from the main kit, and it had all of the ing words on it, right? It had like watching, eating, loving, all in different colors, repeated, and I went, oh, I can do that. I can use those ing words as my prompts for something to put on each of these little cards. And that's exactly what I did. So at the end of every day, the card is highlighting an ing word, and in this case, it's watching, right? So what I did was I ran these cards through my printer, put the information, and I left some space for the sticker. And then I put watching there. So I was able to bring yet another product that did not get used into the, yes, I did use this product pile. And so this one says the last season of, currently watching, the last season of Manifest and the first season of Gossip Girl, going from super heavy and dramatic to completely mindless and shallow. So that's telling me what I did all week, right? Those are the two things I watched this week. Not necessarily this day, but just this week. And that is what one day looks like. And of course, as you know, we are now going to see repeats of all of these same page layouts in the rest of the days. So while I'm doing that and I'm flipping through these pages, again, you can see my puffy stickers. You can see I used, oh, here is an example of the colors. So you see this orangey color that was accenting the 4x4. That's the orangey color that I pulled onto the 3x8. So this wasn't a color that I had originally pulled out of my stash to use in Week in the Life, but I thought it was really great in order to pull another color in. And again, there's so many different colors, right? For Tuesday, let's see what else. The other thing I wanted to point out was you saw, let's flip back here a little bit, and I'll go back and show you everything. But these circles are from the mini kit. So one would think that, and I'm going to flip back again. Okay, don't get annoyed with me. I'm just excited. I'm like a butterfly when I get excited. I just flip back and forth. When I first saw the number 1, I thought, oh, these coordinate with the colors of the days of the week. That is super cool. But they don't. So when we get back here to Tuesday, and this is why I'm explaining to you the color thing. This color came from this little scallop accent color. Where did the pink come from? Well, the pink came from the pink on here. So this pink, in my mind, I said, okay, how will I know what color to stamp on here? And I just randomly said, okay, what color is the color on the circle? And that's kind of the general rule that I followed for choosing stamping colors for some of this stuff. Because honestly, I did not want to have all yellow stamping in Tuesday and all pink stamping in Thursday. Green stamping in Wednesday. I did not want that. I wanted to have some accents. So turn to some of the other elements if you're looking to mix things up a little bit. I know that I wanted to do some stamping. I know that I had said to myself, this year I am using more of the stamps than I did last year. So adding a title onto these cards and then this little Tuesday and then every other day of the week just gave me a little bit more ways, some additional ways to add stamping as design elements. That's basically what I was trying to say. Okay, so here's my Tuesday tab, right? Turning over, I have the 4x4 photos, no embellishing. Here are my song, weather, and quotes for the day. My 2 stapled in. I tried to match the heart I wasn't necessarily worried. Again, the orange on here, because again, I was trying to stamp, with some of this orange and some of this pink. The orange on here would not have looked good, so I stuck with the pink. I think it looks good. I like it. I probably should have put a pink star here, which would have pulled these two pages together, but I didn't. So today was a 9 out of 10. So pretty good day, right? 9 out of 10. Can't complain about that. This was a day where I did not have an additional page protector. One would think that because I was at an amusement park that I would have taken tons of photos, but for two reasons. Number one, we had so much fun. I just wasn't even thinking about taking photos. I was just having such a good time. And I had my camera, but it was in my backpack. I didn't want to carry it with me. I didn't want it to fall out of any of the rides. I just kind of put the phone away. So yes, there are some photos from our amusement park trip. Let's see. What do we got here? We have 1 photo, 2 photos, 3 photos, I think 4, 5, and 6. So, I mean, yeah. And then the other reason was because a lot of the pictures that I had were of the kids. And I didn't feel comfortable putting a lot of those pictures that I did take of the kids in my album. I do have one, but I did hide their faces so that I wasn't putting their faces out there on the internet. Backside here, again, we have that. Backside here, lots of steps that day. Photo. Here's my journaling, my long journaling. Again, open me, grab this, turn it. More of the story. A little bit of space here, right? A little bit of space. That happens. And my Avery tab, roller coaster, little bits. On this little bits, I added photos, right? The first one had all words. This one had photos. So yes to this roller coaster, no to that ride. Hard pass. Was not happening. Too high. That was high. I actually went on that one twice, but I was laughing at myself because somehow the kids convinced me, but they could not twist my arm into that one. And then the last thing is the Bits of Life pocket, and this one is working. So I put that one on there. So that was Tuesday. Wednesday, same thing. And I do want to explain to you guys, someone had asked me about, I was batching. I used the word batching. This is not something new. I'm not like this innovative person or anything. I think I'm just somebody whose light bulb went on this year. What happened, and I'll explain this in exactly how it happened, was I looked at the back of these dividers and I said, it's kind of bland. I need to do something there. What could I do? And at first I thought I would just put photos in the dark colored squares because I was afraid they were going to show through. But it didn't turn out that way because here's a photo on the pink and it was fine, right? So I just randomly chose 3 photos from my day, like I explained earlier. But when I started doing it, I was like, wait a second, how am I going to print these out? Because if I'm going to just print 3 out at a time, I'm going to be wasting a lot of paper. What if I print as many as I can fit on a regular sized paper, right? A regular sized piece of photo paper. So that made me go through all of my photos from Monday through Sunday, and that made me find 3 photos from each one of those days to put on the back of the divider. Well, that got me thinking, gosh, that was great. I printed out all of those 2x2 photos. I have them all done. I attached them all to the back of every single divider. I put all the puffer stickers on them, and I thought that was really fun. I liked doing it that way. Let's try to do it with these. So that's what I did. I pulled out all of the scalloped cards. I already had the photos. So I was able to put my little stories on the cards. I was able to use the accent color stamping, right? You see this green here matches with that green there. And I was able to go through and batch each different piece of each day. So instead of just sitting down one day, like I've done for years, I mean, this is my 4th year only, but for the past 3 years, all I've really done is start with Monday, go through the entire Monday, and then I would post it on Instagram. And then I would sit down and I would do the same stuff for Tuesday and then post it on Instagram and then so on. But this year, this just happened. And here it turns out when I talk to some of my friends that they're like, oh, I've done it that way for years. And I went, let Looks like I'm a little late to the party, but hey, better late than never. So when we talk about batching, when I talk about batching, that's what I'm talking about. It kind of reminds me of an assembly line, right? Where, you know, the item goes through the assembly line and somebody picks up the widget and turns it on its side. And then it moves along and it gets to the next person and that widget then gets colored pink. And then it gets to the next person and somebody cuts a hole in the widget. Like, different things happen at different stages. So I chose to do this card for every day of the week all at one time. Okay. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm trying to explain things the best that I can because I can tell you it was a definite game changer. The other thing I wanted to say was that picking the photos was easy because, like I said, I knew I needed a 4x4 for a longer story, a 3x4, a 4x6, and then 2 full-page photos. And then everything else that was left in my folder on my computer was fair game. I had a total of 16 places that I could add photos throughout the album. And so that is something that when you are planning your process, it gives you an idea of how liberal or how conservative can you be when you are picking your photos. If you took, like I did, let's flip up here into Wednesday and see how many photos I took on Wednesday. Okay, so I took 68 photos, which is still a lot of photos, but 68 photos, 16 spaces to put photos in. I had to be a little conservative as to what pictures that I was going to use. So it did take me a little bit longer. Now, like I said, you could totally add page protectors in. The best page protector to get the most photos in is those 2x2 pockets. Definitely you can get 24 photos in. I know they're little, but they're photos. And that would just add 1 page protector to each day. Because as you can tell, this is already pretty chunky. Okay, so what else did I want to say? I think that's it for Wednesday. So let's just look quick. Where were we here? So we're looking here. There's my scallop. Love it. Someone had asked me about running them through the printer. I did run them through the printer. I was super nervous. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, that scallop is totally going to get caught in my printer and it's going to be horrible. So what I did was I pulled up the digital version and I pulled it into a paper size canvas. Right? I think we've all been through this before. If you haven't, I know I have a video somewhere on my YouTube that talks about it, but I know other people do as well. Many people have made videos about how to print directly on these things, but I pulled the digital version of this onto a regular letter size canvas and I typed out the words. So I only did this with 1 to start because I was super nervous about these scallops. And after I typed the words, I hide the journaling card, print the words only out on a piece of Xerox paper or copy paper, and then using adhesive, the temporary kind, I just adhere this on top so that this lays exactly over the journaling, and the journaling, when I run it through again, will print. Okay, with that being said, these made me nervous. So I made sure, and I'll just kind of show you, I think I have a piece of copy paper here somewhere. Here's the copy paper, right? I had them like this, right? I had it like this. It was only 1 the first time because, like I said, I was super scared. I had them like this, and I put it in my printer this way. Now I'm using a back loading, like a top loading printer. This is not in a tray. This is like in the back. And I just put it back into the printer exactly how it came out, right? And I was worried, but I thought if I put this straight edge in first, that will suck that through the rollers and then it reduces the chance of these getting caught up. What if I did it like this and this got caught up? I would be nervous. So the first time I did it, I thought if I mess up one, I have a silhouette, I can make another card. But it came out wonderfully and I was super excited. So then I was able to do 3 of these, 1, 2, 3, on 2 more pages, which equaled 7. So I actually only had to run these 3 times through my printer. The last thing I wanted to say about that, which is something I mentioned to someone on Instagram today, was if that did not work, if this did not come out and these got all jammed up in my printer, I was thinking I can just put some washi tape over that, right? Just take like, you know, a good washi tape that's not going to peel the paper off and just lay it over there, adhere it down and hide it so that it could not get pulled off and get stuck in the rollers. So those are my thoughts and tips for that. And the back side, again, repeat, same thing, but I love it. And actually, this is probably the 6th or 7th time I'm looking at this, and I have to just tell you that it's not getting old. I'm super, super loving. And it was the day was a 6 out of 10. That wasn't too bad, right? I don't think I went any lower than a 6. I don't know. I can't really remember. Photos taken, steps taken, more journaling, longer stories. Here's my long daily details. Flipping that over again. Here's the W for Wednesday. Flipping that over, little tab. Big photo and just words on here. Oh, here's a day, my mood. Indifferent. Wasn't the best day ever. I don't think there's anything with an upside down frown. So that's a good sign, right? That is a good sign. One more thing I want to mention about the batching process, and I think I may have already alluded to this a little bit, but when you are doing your photos, like I said, if you know you have 16 spaces, 24 spaces, 30 spaces for photos, I wrote down, and I'm sure, again, this is not innovative. I'm not some kind of great person coming up with these super ideas. It's just learning from seeing probably what other people do or hearing other people or just through time. But I did write down, okay, I need a 4x4. I need 3 4x4 photos, 1 3x4 photo, 3 2x2s. I wrote that all down. And I made sure I picked out the photos with specific stories. I made sure I pulled out the photos that were going to be full page photos, and then I knew everything else was the rest, okay? And then I actually saved everything after the 2x2 photos for last. So I did all those 2x2s in the beginning, but I saved all the other photo printing for last because I really wanted to get the journaling out of the way. Yeah, I'm a picky journaler, so I spend a lot of time on that, and I wanted to get that out of the way. So it was, important photos or the ones that have a deeper story. Then it was the journaling. Then it was the rest of the pictures, and then the embellishments and the tabs all came at the end. Again, accent color. This looks a little orange on here, but I went with the red. I thought it was close enough. My little tab is pink, so that made me happy. Photo, I used the pink square die cut. Yellow, let's see, yellow. Was yellow the color? Yellow. I don't know if that's a yellow. Yes, there it is. See, the yellow on the 4 became the yellow on this chapter. So pulling the colors in. I did some black and white photos. Some of the lighting was off, and it was a lot easier to just do them in black and white. These are, again, like I said, my song, weather, and quote of the day. Okay. I did want to point out, if you're doing some hybrid for something like this, let's see here. This is the original pink. Okay, this is the original physical card from the kit. And then if you turn it over, there's a slight difference in the way it printed out from my printers. And I'm going to be honest with you, I reprinted everything twice. And then I stopped myself and I said, you know what? You need to stop. You're being ridiculous. You're never going to match completely. It's never going to happen. If we flip back here to this page, let's just turn here to this last page. Look at the different pinks. Like this is more of a purpley pink. This matches with that, but this is also good. So I had to let go of some things, and something like that where the colors aren't exact, I need to let go of that sometimes. And I'll show you an instance where I had a hard time letting go of it. So pick my battles, right? I'm picking my battles here. I'm making decisions and picking my battles. This had an extra day. There's an extra day right here. So this is the additional page protector that does not fall into every single day, okay? This is where I had to pick my battle. All right. I had to pick this battle because I did not like the fact that, and I'll just kind of show you here. You see this? it's hybrid. So this was printed off from my printer, and this is the original. So if you look really close, they're not the same. They are not the same. 100% you can tell this is creamier looking, and I couldn't get it to match. And I did print one of these out many different ways on many different printers with many different settings, and I did it the best that I could. So I chose different types of papers, and I did fight this battle. So sometimes the battle is worth fighting, and then other times it is not. And that is your choice, right? Your choice. Another day where I was meh. Here's a long photo that's sideways. You can do that too. 100% totally do that. There's nothing wrong with doing that at all. The joy of using these extra page protectors is the joy of going into your stash. So here's another card from my stash, another chipboard piece from my stash. So again, most of this is using the current product, but any chance I get to dig into my stash is joy for me. All right, so there's that. And then my pocket at the end is eating. So I talked about eating, and it wasn't about eating for Thursday. It was just about eating in general. And then Friday, I just want to remind you that, and I used two different greens here. Well, actually, it might be the same green, but it might have come out differently on the white and then the tan. Okay, but here the accent color on this card is white. So I've been using this accent color for this stamping, but I couldn't because it was white. So I had to kind of switch my gears and figure it out. I was going to say something beforehand, and I lost it. And I know I'll be able to go back and find it once I rewatch this video, but I don't remember what I actually started with. But here we are now in Friday. We are in Friday. And again, doing the same thing, my little tab. Doing the same thing. We have my song, my quotes, and all that stuff. I was considering whether or not I want to staple these ovals, because you can see as some of them turned sideways, some of them were not in the middle, they fell to the bottom. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not quite sure. I might staple them, I might not. I love that see-through element, right? I love it. If you use the 2x2 pocket pages, you definitely have an opportunity to do a lot of that. I know, what was I watching of Allie's recently? There was something that she did recently. I can't remember what it was, but she did use the 2x2s, and then popping through some of the squares were like people's faces or different parts of the story. And that was always fun. So we like see-through things. More stash busting here with another page that I was able to add additional photos to that. Reminding you of the fact that the Avery Index tab template is on their website, so don't forget about that. Flipping over for my longer journaling. Again, I have to tell you that even though I set my album up ahead of time, I did not plan any documenting ahead of time. It was like, I know I want 3 screenshots and that is it. I know a lot of people, and I was last year really good at following my little schedule, and I was really good at making sure I got all the photos that I wanted, but I don't know. My brain is really full this year. I have a lot going on, and I totally was not in the mood to follow a schedule. So the notebook was great because I was able to fill all this stuff in. So 3 cheers for the notebook for those of you that used it. I know some of you were actually documenting in it. I've been watching Linda, and Linda Jordan has been just killing it. If you haven't seen hers, go check it out because her notebook is amazing. It is amazing. You'll also notice that I have no ephemera. I have no ephemera in this at all. That was a conscious decision. I decided I was going to leave that for my project life. So I did have ephemera for the week, but not including it this year. And speaking of this year, I wanted to point out something about my quotes and my memes, but here I'll point out the color, right? Here we go with this blue, and that's the same blue that was on the card. Again, pulling different colors in made me happy doing this. Here's what I wanted to point out to you about this project and just memory keeping in general. I mentioned to you that I did this last year. I had a song, weather, and a quote every single day. All right. That was something that I said I'm going to always do in this album. As I was looking through last year's and the year before album, but last year was the first year that I did this, I was reading the little quotes that I had screenshot. And I was like, wow. It was totally one of those situations where things are changing and it seems like everything's the same as it was last year. But it's only when you look at your week in the life from the year before that you realized how much had changed. I was likening it to a situation, for example, of let's just say that your best friend moved away and she lived, across the country and you hadn't seen her in 3 years and she was coming home to visit. You remember her from what you've seen of her, right? You're not on social media looking at pictures and stuff. You talk to her on the phone, you text her, but you don't see her physically for 4 years. She gets off the plane and she's totally skinny. And you're like, wow. Now she thinks, oh my God, I look exactly the same. I don't look any different. Well, yeah, I know I've lost weight, but I still think I look exactly the same, or I look very similar. And to you, because you hadn't seen her, you weren't seeing those changes. If we see somebody every day and they change, we don't even notice that they're changing because we're seeing them. So my mindset over the course of the year has changed so much, and I didn't even know it. Last year, a lot of my memes and a lot of the things that I was screenshotting were about heartbreak and sadness and recovering and getting back out there and, life's ups and downs and the hardships. And I'm not going to lie and say that I don't feel that way sometimes. I mean, I still feel like I'm fighting a battle, but this is proof here that I've made progress, because these memes and these little quotes are not anything at all about healing from anything. For example, this one says, does anyone else feel like they are lazy perfectionists with ADHD and chronic fatigue who is pretty chill besides the occasional panic attack and loves their friends but hates people? It made me laugh out loud. I thought it was funny, and that's why I screenshotted it. So I'm not in the same mindset, and this project helps us to see that. I just wanted to point that out to you guys, because that was one of the epiphanies that I had while I was going through last year's albums, right, and last year's pages. So this day was a 10. Yay! 3 cheers for a day that's a 10. It was a Saturday, and it was a 10. I mean, I was done with school, so every day after Thursday was essentially a Saturday, but it was just such a good day. Such a good day. And so I rated it a 10. And again, additional photos here with the extra page protector, my journaling, and the long journaling with the tab on it, photo, and little bits. And then the pocket is feeling. So that is awesome as well. And then Sunday is the last thing, right? Sunday is the last thing, the last chapter in this week. And speaking of chapters, when I was looking for stamps to use for this project, and I wanted certain sayings, this chapter seemed so appropriate. Right now, I am having yet another change in my life, and I am closing the chapter of teaching 8th grade for 17 years, which is the bulk of my entire teaching career. And so when I was writing the journaling and when I was looking for stamps to document my deeper stories, it seemed so appropriate to choose something that said this chapter, because a chapter could be a week or a month or a year, or a chapter could be 17 years. And within that chapter, there could be other chapters, but that sentiment, that saying just spoke to me. So I used that emotional part of me to pick out what I thought was the most appropriate, and that was this chapter. And the other one was the heart of the story, because I was really trying to get to the heart of a lot of these things. Really quick before I go, and I know I've been doing this for a while. Hopefully you are either A, watching this while you're lying down on YouTube on your TV, or B, watching this in, increments of 15 or 20 minutes at a time, or C, you just have me playing in the background and you're just busy doing something else. But either way, thanks for sticking around. I appreciate it. And I think my excitement for this project and for how it turned out is what drives me to just keep talking about it, because I love it so much. But This is laundry. And I know oftentimes I have seen many, many times that we take pictures of the everyday things that happen during week in the life. And laundry is one of them because we're all washing our laundry, hopefully. And when I say a deeper story, this is not just a story about I did the laundry today, I don't like the laundry, okay, which is fine. And I did that. Like my long journaling here in the back is, factual. But here's a story about the laundry. So I wanted to read that to you just to give you another idea of what I'm thinking of when I say like a deeper story. If you know me, you know that laundry is my arch nemesis. Simply put, I hate it. It feels like a never-ending chore, piles of clothes that never seem to shrink no matter how many loads I wash. The sorting, the folding, the fact that the only way laundry is ever really done is if you're naked. It all feels tedious and exhausting. But somewhere beneath that frustration is a quiet part of me that has a soft spot for it. Doing laundry reminds me of Mom. She loved it. She did it every single day. She offered to do everyone else's laundry too. And the way she made it smell so good, I have never been able to duplicate that. So even though I grumble about the work, there's comfort in the routine. It's a way to feel close to her, to keep a piece of her with me in the everyday. Laundry might be a chore, but it's also a quiet reminder, a small, ordinary way she still feels present in my life. Sorry, guys. Anyway, so that's a deeper story. That one was a little emotional. Maybe I shouldn't have chose that one to read. Sorry about that. But you know what? All of our stories are a mixture of good and bad because life is a mixture of good and bad. And it makes up the big picture. It makes up the big picture. Okay, so flipping that over, we have my steps and the little details. Another additional page with 3x4 photos. Stash. My long journaling. My little bits of Sunday. And then we end the week with loving. And I thought that was a great way to end the week with these little cards that I love so much. So that, guys, is it. And I guess that is kind of like an oxymoron maybe because that was a lot. But I wanted to share everything with you guys. And I hope that you walk away from this with something that is going to help you make the best of this project. Enjoy your time doing it so that it's not a chore and that you don't feel like, oh, I have to do this, because I did not feel that way. I was excited. I'm honest. 48 hours altogether. And I was like getting up in the morning going, okay, come on, let's go. Let's work on it again. I couldn't wait. So, again, you guys might have worked on the batching process before, and I'm new to the game, but I wanted to share that. So thank you ever so much for following along today and listening to me. As always, questions in the comments below. I love hearing from you guys. It makes me happy. And hopefully we'll see you guys in my next video. Have a great day.